Hey everybody out there, this is Jakejames Lugo, senior editor here at Koalition.com, and I'm back again with a brand new unboxing and impressions video for you guys, which is really going to be more like an impressions video than an unboxing. But we're going to be taking a look at this new book from Too Old for Gaming. It's by Sandeep Rai. It's PlayStation Vita Year 1. It's an entire look at the first year of the PlayStation Vita. I have to give a big shout out to Too Old for Gaming because we got in contact recently and I asked them about this book because I think it's pretty cool that they're going to be doing something like this. They're actually planning an entire series on all of the years of the PlayStation Vita's life cycle. So they sent me this copy of Year 1 to actually look at it, give you guys my thoughts and impressions, because of course you guys know we love gaming books over here. So big shout outs to Sandeep and Too Old for Gaming. So he actually sent me not only this physical copy of the book, but he also sent me a PDF copy of the book while I was coming in the mail for the physical copy, and I was able to read it and stuff. So even though I've already seen most of the stuff that's in this book, I never got to see it in its physical form until now. So taking a look at it and kind of cross-referencing it with all the stuff that I've read in the book, as you guys are seeing, this book is very colorful as far as how many pictures it's got, all the different types of images from the games, as well as other things which I'll show you in just a second. But it's an entire look at the first year of the PlayStation Vita since its launch, since it was known as the NGP. I remember this going down during some of the E3 events prior to me actually attending, seeing stuff in the different news at various gaming outlets and stuff. But how good is the book? Like, how good and deep does it cover the entire first year? Well, it gets deep as far as like all the intricate information before the release of the PlayStation Vita, as well as also after the release during that first year. So it's a little bit more than just year 1. It's kind of like year 0 plus year 1 together. I love the different types of images that it provides, some of the different stuff from various different games. It's also got a bunch of different interviews, as you guys are seeing right here. It's the first interview. It has interviews with some of the developers and some of the different people at various publishers for some of the games that were released throughout the entirety of the first year of the PlayStation Vita's life cycle, that year 1. Now, admittedly, I wish that there was more images as far as like throughout some of the pages. It's very wordy as far as a book. Again, it's not as big and not as crazy, and it's not hardcover, I also have to mention, like other gaming books that we've looked at here on the channel. But to me, again, that's my own personal preference. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a knock against the book. But as far as like the images and stuff, for the images, again, I wish that there was more, even though there are some here that look great, it's laid out great. Again, they're very detailed as far as like the information that's related to the PlayStation Vita. It even gets into some of its competition, the 3DS. It talks about the proprietary memory cards, which was a big contributing factor to why people gravitated away from the PlayStation Vita over to the Nintendo 3DS. There's a lot of different reasons, but that was being one of the big major ones that people kind of, latched onto. I want to get a little bit closer towards the end of the book because I want to show you guys something which I think is really good, which is a big asset to this book as I'm looking for it now. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of different developer interviews, publisher interviews in here, which are great. Some of the big people from various studios that made launch games for the PlayStation Vita that were pretty damn cool. So as I'm getting here towards the section I want to get to, so this is the first start of like the rundown, and I guess you could say the dossiers of all the different PlayStation Vita games that were released on year 1. There was about 50 of them, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to look at the exact number. But one of the big ones was Gravity Rush. Obviously, the other big one was Uncharted Golden Abyss, and we'll get into the rest of them there. But I love the layout of some of the info and some of the images and how detailed and deep it gets into not only the development of some of the games like Gravity Rush, but also its release and its reception. And it does this for all the different year 1 releases, including MotorStorm, including Uncharted Golden Abyss, Escape Plan, which is an interesting game. I remember when that came out, people were really excited about it. FIFA, again, Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified, which should have been a hit, to be honest with you, because a Call of Duty game on any platform should have been a hit, but because this game didn't control and did feel like some of the older Call of Duty games that were on the consoles, on the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and again, it was made by a studio, Instigate Games, sorry, I almost pronounced it wrong. It was that, and also the, Resistance Burning Skies, game that was on PlayStation Vita that didn't kind of take well to audiences, which kind of sucked. Little Big Planet, I know Greg Miller is was a big advocate for Little Big Planet. Obviously on PlayStation Vita, it wasn't the same as on the PlayStation 4, but it was still a big deal. And we get into the rest of the games, but the big one, obviously, which deservedly so, it's in a yellow, Yellow Pages, which I think kind of matches up well and it makes sense. Persona 4 Golden, this was probably one of the other big hits and one of the reasons why I and many other people bought a PlayStation Vita to begin with. So besides that, again, it gets into a couple pages, talks about the game, talks about its predecessor, the original game on PlayStation 2, and why this version of the game is better, and why it was such a big hit with a lot of audiences that picked up a PlayStation Vita. And then again, it gets into the rest of the games like Wipeout. It gets into, Unit 13, which is another big deal. Another game that was really interesting. But I want to get over to the end, and here's the Uncharted Golden Abyss section. Again, a couple pages that gets really into why Uncharted Golden Abyss was such a big deal. I want to get into this section of the physical releases and the digital releases. So these are all the physical releases. There was 53 games in total that were physically released on PlayStation Vita, and I believe this is all of them. I think that's all in one. Oh no, it's multiple pages. So it's 3 pages worth of all the different box art of PlayStation Vita games that were released physically, and then you get into the digital releases, which are right next to it. So most of these that were also released physically were also released digitally, and then you have these additional games that were released only digitally on top of that. The one thing I will say that this book does not cover, because I remember specifically there were some accessories that came out during year 1. It doesn't cover the accessories of the PlayStation Vita within that first year. I know because I remember going to GameStop and various other places, there was a bunch of third-party accessories that came out for the PlayStation Vita, including cases, including other stuff for holding your different, cards for the games, and a couple other things. They weren't first party, so maybe that's the reason why they never really got into it in this book, but there were released different accessories that I wish were covered in some fashion, or at least acknowledged in some way. It doesn't really get into them in this book. Maybe in year 2 and year 3 and some of the subsequent volumes they'll do so afterwards. Then obviously it has all the different Kickstarter people that they're thanking, everything else, and then obviously an index, which I wish the index was at the beginning. I don't like so much the index being at the end of books, and then a tease for PlayStation Vita year 2. So overall, is this a book that PlayStation Vita owners are going to want to own? I believe so. I think that this is going to be a series that you guys are definitely going to want to look into. I do hope that year 2 and year 3 are a little bit more meatier as far as books, because again, it only is that much, and there's only so much you could talk about with the PlayStation Vita, especially if you're going year by year. Personally, for me, if I had a choice, I wish that they had covered all the different years in one book, and I know I had talked, with Too Old for Gaming a little bit about this, and his explanation is that obviously making the book, it costs a lot of money, and there's a lot of other logistical stuff that goes into it. So maybe, hopefully, if this does well, or if other things do well, they'll be able to kind of make like one big compilation book, or after the entire series is released. But overall, I dig this book. As a PlayStation Vita owner myself, I've owned 2 of them so far. At this point, I definitely dig that the PlayStation Vita is getting this type of treatment, similar to the other books that we've looked at in the past. I think that you guys should pick it up if you're curious about the PlayStation Vita. Again, it's available physically and it's also available digitally. The book that you guys could definitely check out. So with that being said, that's my thoughts on the PlayStation Vita Year 1 book. Let me know what's up in the comment section down below, guys. If you enjoyed this unboxing, quote-unquote, an impressions video, if you guys own a PlayStation Vita, or if you were around, and you were really into the PlayStation Vita during its first year on the market, tell me about it in the comment section below. Don't forget to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the Koalition's YouTube channel for all our videos like this one. We have developer interviews, we have gameplay commentaries, we have new podcasts, and a whole bunch of other great stuff that you guys are definitely going to enjoy here on the channel. I will talk to all of you again very soon. Peace out, and stay epic, everybody.